Why your darkest season creates your strongest self, Carl Jung. What if the good person you've spent your life perfecting is actually a lethal psychological prison? That crushing exhaustion isn't depression. It is a violent strike by your own soul. You aren't going crazy. You are waking up. Listen to the end, or remain a ghost in your own biography. The sanctuary of madness, shattering the illusion of the good person. Imagine waking up one morning, the cold light creeping through your blinds, and realizing with a sudden, violent nausea that you absolutely despise the life you have built. You do not just feel sad. You feel a bone-deep, crushing apathy toward the very identity you have spent decades carefully constructing. You stare into the mirror, and the face looking back is a complete stranger, a hollow, perfectly painted mask woven entirely from other people's expectations. You feel as though you are losing your mind. You feel the terrifying urge to burn everything to the ground and walk away. But what if you are not going crazy? What if you are, for the very first time in your life, finally waking up? In the autumn of 1913, a man who would soon become one of the greatest minds in human history stood on this exact precipice of absolute, terrifying madness. Following a brutal apocal rupture with his mentor, Sigmund Freud, Carl Gustav Jung did not merely experience a professional setback. He plunged into a self-imposed, agonizing exile. He willingly descended into the terrifying abyss of his own unconscious mind, a harrowing journey he recorded in his infamous Red Book. To the outside world, Jung was a man rapidly losing his grip on reality, a mind collapsing under the weight of its own brilliance. But I tell you, in truth, he was undergoing a profound, bloody initiation. He was enduring the necessary, violent destruction of his former self to excavate the raw, unfiltered truth of his soul. What Jung experienced is not a historical anomaly. It is a universal psychological inevitability. And if you are listening to these words right now with a heavy, exhausted heart, it is highly likely you are standing in that exact same darkness. The inner multiverse warmly welcomes you to this sacred, terrifying space where the noise of the world is finally muted. If you find a reflection of your own unspoken pain in the shadows we explore here, I urge you to subscribe to our channel. Your support is the vital heartbeat that gives us the motivation to continue producing these deep, uncompromising journeys into the human psyche. We are so deeply conditioned by a sterile society to view a psychological collapse as a failure. We see the inability to get out of bed, the sudden withdrawal from the world, and the crushing exhaustion as symptoms of a profound weakness. We try to medicate it, distract from it, run from it. But I ask you to consider a terrifying alternative. What if your breakdown is not a malfunction? What if it is a ruthless, precise psychological surgery orchestrated by the universe itself? You have entered what mystics call the dark night of the soul. This is the agonizing moment the mask begins to crack. The pleasantries you exchange taste like ash. You are drowning in the shallow waters of small talk, suffocating inside the iron cage of your own endless people-pleasing. Your perpetual goodness has become a lethal curse. Do not look away from this devastation. The cracking of your mask is the most vital, urgent, and beautiful alarm your soul will ever sound. The tyranny of virtue, dissecting the pathology of pleasing bond. If the cracking of this mask is indeed a vital alarm, we must first understand the devastating architecture of the prison it was designed to hide, the suffocating construct of the good person. We do not construct this persona out of malice or deceit. We build it out of a desperate primal necessity to survive our childhoods. At some point in your early life, you learned a tragic equation. Your authentic self, with all its messy, loud, and inconvenient needs, was a threat to your connection with the caregivers you depended on for survival. And so, you made the ultimate psychological sacrifice. You traded your authenticity for attachment. You amputated your anger. You swallowed your boundaries. You silenced your wildness. And you meticulously constructed a polished, compliant version of yourself that the world found agreeable. You became the peacemaker, the overachiever, the silent sufferer, the one who asks for nothing and gives everything. But this goodness is not a virtue. It is a trauma response. It is a highly sophisticated defense mechanism designed to manipulate the environment into providing safety. Think about the sheer, unadulterated exhaustion of waking up every single day and putting on a psychological hazmat suit just to interact with the world. You are constantly scanning the emotional weather of every room you enter, adjusting your personality to regulate the moods of everyone around you. You agree when your soul screams in protest. You smile when your heart is weeping blood. And beneath this flawless veneer of perpetual accommodation, a dark, toxic resentment begins to pool. You resent the people you are supposedly helping, and more tragically, you begin to despise yourself for your own cowardice. The tragedy of the good person is that they are entirely hollowed out by their own compliance. You have spent so much of your life trying not to be a burden that you have ceased to be a presence. You have become a ghost haunting your own biography. This is why the sudden, paralyzing apathy you are experiencing is not a symptom of mental illness. It is a violent strike organized by your own psyche. Your mind is refusing to generate the immense amount of energy required to sustain a lie any longer. The machinery of your pleasing is breaking down because it is running on the fumes of an empty soul. Do not mourn the loss of this persona. It was never you. It was merely the armor you wore to survive a war that ended decades ago. The exhaustion that pins you to your bed is the universe demanding that you finally lay down your weapons and step out of the heavy, suffocating iron of your own perceived nobility. The descent into the shadow, embracing the exiled monster. When the exhaustion of performing this flawless virtue finally breaks you, you are violently thrown into the very basement of your psyche, a terrifying subterranean realm that Carl Jung called the shadow. As the armor of the good person disintegrates, all the fractured, disowned pieces of yourself that you banished to the darkness begin to rise to the surface. This is the descent. It is a profoundly disorienting and terrifying experience, akin to walking through the haunted corridors of your own mind without a flashlight. You begin to encounter the parts of yourself you have spent a lifetime running from. Your suppressed rage, your hidden selfishness, your taboo desires, your deep-seated envy, and your overwhelming grief. Society has conditioned us to believe that to encounter these elements within ourselves is proof of our inherent badness. We look at the sudden, violent anger bubbling up inside us, and we are terrified that we are becoming monsters. But I need you to understand this with every fiber of your being. The shadow is not evil, it is merely unloved. The monsters in the basement of your psyche are actually just orphaned fragments of your own soul, starving for the light of your conscious awareness. When you were a child, you took the most vital, potent energies of your life force, your capacity to fight back, your fierce independence, your raw sexuality, and you shoved them into the dark because the world told you they were unacceptable. Meeting the shadow is not about turning into a villain. It is a bloody, harrowing rescue mission to reclaim your lost power. You have to look directly at your capacity for cruelty, your apathy, and your deep, unspoken desire to be selfish, and you have to breathe them in without turning away in disgust. This is the ultimate test of self-compassion. Can you love the hideous, screaming, ragged parts of yourself just as much as you love the polished, helpful persona you showed the world? When Jung wrote his Red Book, he was not fighting demons. He was sitting down to converse with them, listening to their ancient, terrible wisdom. The shadow contains your gold. Your unexpressed rage is actually the guardian of your boundaries. Your selfishness is the seed of your self-respect. Your darkest grief is the profound measure of your capacity to love. Until you are brave enough to descend into this darkness and embrace the monster you have been so terrified of becoming, you will remain a half-lived person, a shallow reflection of a human being. The descent is terrifying, yes, but it is the only path that leads to the center of your own true gravity, the crucible of fire, sitting in the agony of disintegration. Staring into the eyes of your own buried darkness triggers an existential, agonizing fire, and your immediate, frantic instinct will be to flee, to numb, or to quickly fix the unfixable. The modern world is perfectly equipped to aid you in this avoidance. We are surrounded by an endless buffet of distractions, from the digital numbing of endless scrolling to the medicalization of our emotional pain. People around you, terrified by your transformation, will urge you to simply snap out of it, to go back to being the pleasant, accommodating person they relied upon. They will offer platitudes, medications, and toxic positivity to extinguish the flames of your breakdown. But I implore you, do not reach for the water. You must stay in the fire. What you are experiencing is psychological alchemy, and alchemy absolutely requires heat. You cannot forge a new self without entirely melting down the old one. This process of disintegration feels like death because, to your ego, it is a very real, very literal death. The identity that kept you safe is being systematically burned to ash. The agony of this crucible is profound and utterly lonely. You will experience days where the ground beneath you simply vanishes. You will mourn the loss of relationships that were built entirely on your willingness to be used. You will watch as people drift away because they do not know how to love the real, boundary-setting, truth-telling version of you. Let them go. Their departure is the necessary shedding of dead skin. You must develop the immense psychological endurance to sit in the center of your own ruin without trying to prematurely rebuild. We are so obsessed with curing the symptoms of our pain that we completely bypass the healing of the soul. Healing is not a return to how things were. It is the courage to let the old version of you die completely. It is lying on the floor in the dark, feeling the sheer terror of not knowing who you are anymore and refusing to turn on the lights. It is in this terrifying void, this absolute zero of the soul, that the most profound psychological restructuring occurs. You are being dismantled so that you can be put back together with stronger, truer materials. The fire is not here to destroy you. It is here to burn away everything that is false. Surrender to the ashes. Trust the absolute intelligence of your own breakdown. The alchemy of wholeness, rising from the ashes of virtue. Yet, if you can withstand the scorching heat of this psychological cremation without turning away, the ashes will eventually begin to cool, revealing the raw, unpolished gold of your authentic self. This is the dawn that follows the dark night of the soul, the quiet, breathtaking emergence from the crucible. When you finally step out of the wreckage of your former identity, you will notice a profound shift in your center of gravity. You will no longer be striving to be a good person. Instead, you will have achieved something infinitely more magnificent and exceedingly rare. You will have become a whole person. Carl Jung famously declared, "I'd rather be whole than good." To be whole is to be terrifyingly real. The new self that emerges from this darkness is not a pristine, enlightened saint. It is a deeply grounded, unapologetically flawed human being who walks with the quiet, dangerous confidence of someone who has survived their own mind. You will find that you suddenly have access to a fierce, protective energy. You can say no with a steady voice, without a single tremor of guilt or the need to over-explain yourself. You will allow your anger to rise when your boundaries are crossed, using it as a clean, sharp sword rather than turning it inward as depression. Your relationships will drastically change. They will no longer be transactions of mutual pleasing, but deep, authentic connections built on absolute truth. There is a profound, unshakable peace that settles into your bones when you permanently resign from the exhausting job of managing other people's perceptions of you. You will lose the world's cheap, conditional applause, but in exchange, you will gain the entirety of your own soul. You will wake up in the morning and the face in the mirror will no longer be a hollow mask painted with the expectations of society. It will be the weathered, beautiful, scarred face of someone who has been to the underworld and returned with their own fire. If you are in the depths of this madness right now, feeling as though your life is ending, I promise you, from the deepest part of my own humanity to yours, you are not dying. You are finally, brutally, and beautifully being born. The sanctuary of this madness is the womb of your true self. Hold on to the darkness just a little longer. The illusion is shattered, the tyrant of virtue is dead, and your real life, messy, wild, and brilliantly yours, is just waiting to begin. And finally, conclusion. The journey from the suffocating prison of the good person to the liberated, authentic self is a harrowing but essential psychological evolution. We must first acknowledge that our relentless need to please is not a moral virtue, but a deep-seated trauma response, a heavy psychological armor forged in childhood to secure love and survival at the cost of our true nature. When this exhausting facade inevitably collapses, we are plunged into the terrifying, shadowy depths of our own psyche. Here we must bravely face the exiled fragments of our soul, our repressed rage, selfishness, and grief, recognizing them not as inner monsters, but as vital, unloved pieces of our own life force. As we endure the agonizing crucible of this emotional disintegration, actively resisting the modern urge to numb the pain, we allow the false self to burn away completely. This metaphorical death is the ultimate act of psychological alchemy. By sitting patiently in the ashes of our ruined persona, we eventually rise not as polished, compliant saints, but as whole, unapologetically real human beings. We trade the exhausting, endless pursuit of external validation for the fierce, unshakable peace of inner alignment. Ultimately, this breakdown is not the end of your life. It is the brutal, beautiful birth of your true self, finally free to live with raw authenticity, unyielding boundaries, and profound self-respect. Profound lesson and practical application. The most profound lesson to draw from this is that true psychological freedom demands the sacrifice of your perceived goodness in exchange for your wholeness. Healing is not about becoming more accommodating. It is about reclaiming your lost power. To apply this to your life right now, start taking a brutally honest audit of your daily interactions. Where are you saying yes when your soul screams no? Begin practicing the art of the micro-rebellion. Set one small, firm boundary today without apologizing, feeling guilty, or over-explaining yourself. When uncomfortable emotions like anger, resentment, or grief arise, do not suppress them or numb them with digital distractions. Sit with them in the fire. Treat these emotions as guardians pointing you toward your reclaimed self-worth. Stop managing other people's perceptions of you. Let them be disappointed if necessary, and start fiercely honoring your own reality. Join the conversation. Have you ever felt completely exhausted from trying to be the good person for everyone else? Please take a moment to share your perspective or a personal experience in the comments section below. Your insights might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. And it helps create a space where we can all learn from each other's journeys. If you found value in this message, please hit the subscribe button. Your support truly gives us the drive and motivation to keep producing more deep, meaningful content for you in the future.